Exodus chapter 7, verse 13 says this, "And he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said." And what I want to preach on is a short sermon on why the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. Now, there are a lot of people who will look at the story of God hardening the Pharaoh's heart, and they'll use it to support this belief called Calvinism. Calvinism is this belief that whether or not a person goes to heaven or hell has nothing to do with whether they choose to accept the Lord Jesus Christ. Calvinism teaches that instead, God just at random, before you're even born, just says, oh, you're going to heaven, you're going to hell, and that just sort of plays out. Calvinists believe that everything that happens, either good or bad, was foreordained by God, that God planned for every evil person to do their evil action, and that God planned for every good person to do their good action. But this is a false belief. The reason why bad things happen is because people reject God's will, not because they're in God's will. I mean, think about it. If people doing bad things were in God's will, then why would hell even exist? Because if God planned for you to do that thing, then it wouldn't be sin. So they will use God hardening the Pharaoh's heart to show, see, God never wanted the Pharaoh to go to heaven. But that's not true. Because if you look at what it says, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened, he refuses to let the people go. So you see, Pharaoh's heart was hardened by the Lord. But we don't stop there. We ask why. Why did God harden the Pharaoh's heart? Well, if you go to Romans chapter 1, verse 28, we find the answer. It says, and even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. You see, if someone doesn't want to retain God in their knowledge, God will give that person over to a reprobate mind. In other words, if you reject God, God will reject you back. If you're a person out there, you're not saved, you have not yet put your faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, if you one day decided, I want nothing to do with God, I hate God, I want nothing to do with him, guess what? God's going to reject you. God's going to hate you back. That's why it's important to put your trust on Jesus before it's too late. Because there comes a day where it's too late. The Bible clearly teaches, it says that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. But what if you don't believe? You're going to perish. And so there are people out there who refuse to believe in them. So they will never have everlasting life. Now, since we know from Romans 1:28 that God rejects those who have first rejected him, can we find any time in the Bible before this point in Exodus 7 where the Pharaoh rejected God? Absolutely. Look at Exodus chapter 5 in verse 2. It says, and Pharaoh said, who is the Lord that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go. So you see, in that story, Pharaoh rejected God 2 chapters before God started hardening his heart. And what that shows is that Pharaoh first rejected God, and then God responded by rejecting Pharaoh back. What can we learn from this? Those that have rejected God can never be saved. They become reprobates. That's why Jesus said, ye are of your father, the devil. Now, look what it says in Romans chapter 9. This is why God hardens the heart of those that have rejected him. It says in Romans 9:22, what if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy, which he had afore prepared unto his glory. Those who reject God, God will make an example out of them to their destruction, so that he may show the world what happens when you reject him. If you have not yet put your trust on God, don't let that be you. Put your faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved, and you won't ever have to go through this. That's why if you ever notice, people who reject the Lord Jesus Christ, people who hate God, people whose hearts are hardened, if you ever notice, they get more wicked and more evil and more evil. Oh, how could this person be such a wicked rapist? How could any human being do that? How could this person be such a bad serial killer? How could anyone cause so much destruction? Because God hardened their heart to make an example out of them. Because when he throws them in the lake of fire, that will be the ultimate time where he shows his ultimate power over them. And you don't want that to be you. If you are not saved, put your trust in him today.